Hello, this is wmpyr, here to share with you guys kind of a new idea. It's not necessarily a new idea for me, but I'm trying to add more value to it than I had in the past. And this viewpoint comes from my recent correspondence with a Japanese self-defense instructor who comes from a completely different background from I do. So it's been very refreshing to, try to think differently in different ways. And anyway, the topic is about combat. So what I want to do today is look at combat from the point of view of pre-fight and fighting. Okay, so I think this is especially important because in today's society, the UFC is so popular. And I think a lot of people feel that that is the most effective martial arts on the planet today, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So the style that, the UFC in that sport, what they utilize is called MMA, right? The fighting style is called MMA. In MMA, there's many different ways for you to do it, but predominantly it's boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, there's other ways to do MMA, but that's probably the most popular. And, I think, once again, a lot of people feel like the best fighter in the world or, the most dangerous person on the planet today is a UFC fighter. And I'm not going to disagree with that. But when we look at the point of view from combat, right, what those guys do is they fight. They're professional fighters. They're the best on the planet when it comes to fighting that way, in the cage or whatever. And they do it at an extremely high level. And once again, they fight. Fighting means, are you ready? Are you ready? All right, let's go. So it's a designated time, and they know what to expect. They know the rules. I mean, it's in a very confined situation, right? They try to eliminate a lot of the unknown factors. What if we had a chair in the middle? What if there was a beer bottle right there, on the side? Or what if one of them had a knife? They eliminate all these, crazy unknown factors that can happen in a real life situation. And they try to make it as fair and, as evenly matched as possible, so that in some ways makes it extremely brutal and extremely hard. Because now they're so evenly matched, now it becomes a battle of attrition. Battle of attrition, for those people that, kind of don't have an idea, battle of attrition is brutal. That means you got to fight with your heart, you're going to be dead tired, and if you quit at that moment, they're going to win. So you got to push through those kinds of times. So battle of attrition is always super hard, but anyway, so you have that. But in the viewpoint of combat, there's also pre-fight, and in combat, that's game. In the UFC or in any kind of sport, you are not allowed to attack the other person before the fight, obviously. But when it comes to combat, everything is good. That's allowed, right? So if someone, you're talking about like a war type situation, or even if someone breaks into your home or a riot or whatever, any kind of self-defense situation included, right? To attack someone that wasn't expecting it or wasn't ready. Maybe they're attacking somebody else. They didn't see you, or maybe they're sleeping. Or maybe they thought that they completely made you give up, and you were completely, lost your fighting spirit, and you're like, oh, please, just don't kill me, but you're ready to attack them. They had no idea. You completely fooled them or whatever. This is completely allowed in real combat. So to be able to attack somebody from there while they're not ready, I feel like in today is a lost skill. It's the skill's not necessarily lost, but the viewpoint is completely lost, I feel like, because the moment you show a technique, and a lot of traditional martial arts have this point of view because they come from combat. It's not for sport. It's from battlefields and from just combat in general because you're just trying to survive back in the old days. So in those kinds of situations, the techniques that were developed was not meant for sport, right? So when people look at those techniques, the first thing that a person from today is going to think, will that work against the MMA fighter? Will it work in full contact? And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but if you look at that viewpoint, you're only looking at it from a fighting perspective. So maybe when the person's ready like this, this technique may not work at all against someone like that. However, if the person is not ready, this technique can work. And if it does work, then maybe it's much more efficient than a fighting technique, right? Because why? What fighters do is that's a very different situation. You're talking about someone that's fighting back, someone that's doing stuff to you too, and they're ready to receive and defend and block and evade your shots and your techniques. So you have to now you have to fake them out, set them up. You have to have endurance. You have to have all these other things to make your technique land. So now you're talking about a different type of situation. I'm not saying it's easier. It's very, very difficult to go up against someone that's ready and game, but it is also different. It is also very, very different. So some of those techniques that don't work in a fight, just because they don't work in a fight doesn't mean that it's not valuable. From a fighting perspective, yes, it doesn't work, so it's not valuable. But when the opponent's not ready, could I do it? That's the viewpoint I would like for you guys to start thinking about. Can I do this technique when the other person is not ready? And if so, how much more efficient or effective is it? You know what I mean? So, for example, let's say in my backyard, a bunch of relatives come over and we're having a barbecue, right? One of my uncles gets drunk really bad and he's a lot bigger and stronger than I am, right? So against this guy, if I decide to Muay Thai kickbox this guy, I could probably beat him up, but he's going to be a bloody mess. And he's not going to quit that easily, so I'm going to have to hurt him for him to calm down and stop. That means I'm going to be using elbows, knees. I'm going to hurt him, and I don't want to, okay? But let's say I wrestle the guy instead because, I got some grappling skills. So let's say I do that. He's bigger and stronger than me, and it might take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, who knows? And it could be pretty brutal, right? But then, if I had maybe like a Tai Chi preemptive striking technique, maybe one hit I can take him out. And it'll drop him, and it'll get the job done. One hit, and it won't bloody him up. It might hurt him a little bit, but not as bad as if I use, Muay Thai kickboxing on the guy. So think about that, okay? So there are situations where that kind of technique can be very, very valuable. So, that's what I would like for you guys to think about. Don't just think about from a full contact perspective. Also, there is value in being able to take out somebody that is not ready. Obviously you don't want to be a thug and use those kinds of moves on the street because that's going to land you in a lot of legal trouble. And if you ever do something like that, you should pay dearly. And that's, you owe society a lot for sure. But there might be other self-defense situations where maybe there's like 3 of them and for sure they're going to attack you. So in that case, you need every advantage you can. Maybe it's better for you to attack first in that situation And if you do attack first, if you have the ability to take out a person with one or two hits, that would be greatly appreciated at that moment. So just something to think about. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for viewing, and take care, folks.